Hi, I'm Paul from Test Data Services, and this script is a real-world use of Test Data Service calls. So it's using LoadRunner with Web HTTP HTML protocol. I will be doing a dev web script soon as well that does the same thing, so you can see the difference, and there's a lot of difference between the two. So this particular one you might even use as a comparison to that dev web script. So what it's doing is it's doing 6 calls to sign up to a Cognito-based website. Now, Cognito is a production-grade service by AWS. It uses OpenID Connect. It is used by many sites. It scales to millions of identities. So it's real-world. Now, when you have a real-world type endpoint to test against, you often have a few subtle things that you have to do with a bit more detail than you would in like a test against a training system or a demo system. So I'm going to step you through this. Before I do, I'll walk you through the script. So the script does 6 calls only. It fetches a random identity. It brings up a page with a form on it with a number of fields like the person's name, email address, actual physical address, date of birth, and a few things like that. Then I clear messages, so the email address that's been used in this form will receive an email, and it'll have a verification code in it, so I need to be able to catch that. But before I catch that, I need to check that there's not already one there. So by clearing it out, I ensure there's no old messages that I then read a code for thinking it's the new code, but it's an old code. And also that sets a timer, which is quite useful as well. I then submit all of those details. You can see here I'm submitting as a post. In the body of the post, the address, gender, given name, family name, a password, birth date, and so on. I then do a call in a loop until that fetches messages, email messages, until I get one that has a verification code in it. Once I have a verification code, I break out of that loop, and then I submit that code, and then that person's signed up. So if I now push the run button here, so that we can actually see what this looks like, we've just fetched a person. The email address is Adele Horn. Let's copy that address, and let's look and check if Adele Horn is in here. Refresh. Adele Horn is not here, which is good to see. So if I now continue on, what it's doing now is it's clearing out any emails for that person. It's submitting that form with all of those details for Adele, and now it's up, and it's now got a verification code, but it hasn't submitted it yet. So if we scroll right down in this log, we can see it's got a verification code of 826054. It's got a latency of 3.4 seconds. That was how long it took from when we cleared out any old emails until an email was inbound. So it only took Cognito 3.4 seconds to actually send us a message, which is pretty cool. If I take this Cognito screen now and I refresh, I can see that that person is there. If I click on here, we can see that's the address, date of birth, 14th of June 2010. That's the email, but importantly, it's an unconfirmed email address. So good to know. If I now do that last step though, and then I refresh, we should see that they're confirmed. There we go, confirmed. So that's good. Now, to go through a little bit more detail of the script, because that's what we want to do, we can see that we're doing this VUser status message to start with. I like putting VUser status messages into my tests because it lets me visually see what's going on. So I'm saying I'm doing a startup, then I'm doing these WebReg save params, which means we're registering a search ahead of time, looking for an address and a gender, and we're marking the left boundary and what the right boundary is, so that when we do this call to get random person, we'll populate all these parameters or variables in the script that we can then use for later. We're also concatenating 3 fields together: a date of birth, day, month, and year. We're putting leading zeros in, and we're putting a slash between those fields. Now that's an example of a subtle thing you've got to do in a real world scenario. We get a parameter we have to correlate, a CSRF parameter. We submit this request to get the form rather. Here we're doing a call to clear a message. We're passing in the new identity username, which is the email address of the person, and the from domain is testdata.email, because that's where the email is coming from that we're wanting to catch. And for this next call, we need to fetch the cognito FL parameter. Now, I've got 3 different ways I'm hunting for this, and the reason for that is sometimes it has an equals character in it. If it has an equals character in it, it gets quoted. So the actual cookie assignment in LoadRunner quotes the cookie, which means that if I'm doing a search, I need to have a different type of search, and I need to make adjustments. But I've got 3 different ways of finding it. Also, if there is or isn't quotes around it, it tends to position in a different spot. It might be the last cookie or the not last cookie. So my boundaries are different. So I then have to handle that. I submit the details, and then I work out which of these cognito values has got the data I'm looking for, so that it can do that final submission. So in that final submission, we have this cognito FL field. To show you what it looks like and to show you why it's important, go to replay log. That's it here. So this big long field, see there is an equal sign there. And if I go back to this decode, you can see the last one I did there. Paste, decode, and we can see Adele Horn, and we can see that FL cookie has embedded in it some information which is like some claims. So it's got a subject and it's got an email address and so on. So it is important that we put that into the post. This actual HTTP post seems to work even if it's not correct, but it's better to put the correct value in. So now that you've seen that, and the other thing I was going to mention was, while we're waiting for that code, we have a submitting cognito sign up for. We put the email address in, waiting for code. And when we've got the code, we then put a different message there to show that that we've got it. So in this case, where would it be? I can't see it right now, but it doesn't really matter. But if I now run a test, so if I push the start button and show you, you can see that we're starting the sign up. You can see when it says starting sign up, it says what the person's name is. That's it, starting. You can see all these dots here when it's waiting for a code to be returned and an email to be read. And away we go. So we can see that's running and that's working, which is nice. We stop. So I hope this is useful as a way of seeing how you can actually use, in a real world situation, a load test script that makes use of test data service calls. Like I said, go to the top right hand corner and click on the link for the playlist to look into much more detail of how these API calls can be used in your tests. And I hope you do well in your testing, and I hope you found this interesting. Have a great day.